Hey, I'm Cody. I'm the head of developer and product support for Fedi. And Fedi is a Bitcoin company building on top of the Fedi-Mint protocol. Within Fedi, we've got this concept of Fedi-Mods, which is a way that you can take your WebLN-enabled applications and put them inside of Fedi to customize it for the community that you're building for. And I just covered a lot there. So I'm going to go through, break that down, and cover each individual part of it. This is a re-record of a workshop that I ran a couple days ago, but my Wi-Fi kept cutting out, and so I wanted to make a high quality version of this that you guys can reference for next week when you guys do your hackathon, right? So I'm going to cover a couple of baselines beforehand. So like define Fedi-Mint, Fedi-Mods, MutinyNet, WebLN. Those are like all the things that we're going to be building with in order to make our Fedi-Mod and like just Bitcoin enabled applications. And yeah, it's going to cover a lot. And so it's going to be very exciting. I've set up a bunch of services and stuff, and I'll do an overview of each one of those as I get to it. But and then we've also set up a federation called MutinyNet 2, which is just like a bare bones one. It doesn't come with any Fedi-Mods out of the box. Doesn't have a chat server set up, but it's just something for you guys to use with your testing for your Fedi-Mods, right? And so we'll go through each of those. But so let's get started, right? So what is Fedi-Mint? So like I said, Fedi is a Bitcoin company building on top of Fedi-Mint. Fedi-Mint is a federated Chaumian eCash mint backed by Bitcoin, right? And so the way that we think about it is that you can take Fedi-Mint and you can empower communities to be able to custody in a like in a community context while maintaining very good privacy, right? So it's using Chaumian eCash for that. And so Fedi is a way where you can organize by connecting to many of these different Fedi-Mints, so many of these different communities. It's a way for you to organize your data, your money, and your digital life across all of them, right? And we're going to get through how that works, but we're building on top of Fedi-Mint. And Fedi-Mint has a 0.1 release. If you go to in the docs, I have a whole thing for how to set it up. This is just github.com/Fedi-Mint/Fedi-Mint. And this steps through how you can set up your own Fedi-Mints if you want to. This workshop is about Fedi-Mods, so like actually setting up Fedi-Mints is a little bit beyond the scope, but just wanted to cover that beforehand because we're going to be connecting some federations and then adding some Fedi-Mods. So what is Fedi, right? So Fedi is a company building on top of the Fedi-Mint protocol in order to make what we like to call a federated operating system. Or another way to think about it is like a very privacy-focused super app, right? Is that we kind of use Bitcoin as the base for it, the same way that Fedi-Mint uses Bitcoin as the base, but you can extend Fedi-Mint with other modules. Fedi is you're like at the baseline, you're connected to these different federations, so you can use Bitcoin, but you can also do stuff like add Fedi-Mods, which is a way that you can use Fedi's in-app browser in order to interact over Lightning with web pages, right? So I'll go over that, and that's one of the things that we're going to be building. But yeah, so that's Fedi. And Fedi-Mods are the way that we allow you to customize Fedi to your local community, right? And so when you set up a federation, you can also set up like a very simple set of sites that are compatible with Bitcoin. And Fedi, when you're interacting with those sites through the app, will intercept and can handle things like creating invoices, signing messages, using your Lightning wallet, that kind of stuff, using like a login with Lightning, or it can intercept like Nostr, like as a NIP7 signer, it can do all that. And it's just like a really powerful solution for doing that. And so there's another link here that goes for a bunch of details, but I think the best way to do this is to just kind of jump in and get started, right? So let's go back. And the other thing I wanted to cover is like, what is MutinyNet? So MutinyNet, like normally when you're programming on Bitcoin, is that there's a bunch of different test networks. MutinyNet is the one that we're going to be using. It's a signature network with a faster block time. So it's got 30-second blocks, right? And so we're going to be building on top of that. And also because I've set up a bunch of services for you guys to be able to use with MutinyNet. So like I set up Matador, which is a way that basically you can use my API keys to access all of these different AI services, but you pay in Bitcoin in order to be able to use them. So you do a request, and then it responds back with an invoice. You pay the invoice, it completes the API request for like OpenAI, Claude, Google models, like all that stuff, right? And if there's any APIs that you'd like me to add to Matador, it just takes me like 5 minutes, just let me know. Right. And so I'm running Matador on MutinyNet so that you guys, when you're building, you guys don't have to pay, but you still get the experience of like do a call, get an invoice, do a call, get an invoice, right? Which is pretty cool. And so that if you just go on here and just open up the Matador on MutinyNet, I did like a little walkthrough of it for that, and we're also going to be using it a little bit later, so you can see it, how it works. Cool. The other thing I did was I set up MutinyNet Lightning addresses for everyone, right? And so, excuse the, this is just like a README for it, but basically, while you're building, just a useful thing that you might want to do is use Lightning addresses. And it's kind of annoying when you're using test networks because most of those don't have Lightning addresses because why would somebody set up a Lightning address server for that? But that's exactly what I did was I set up a Lightning address server, and it's actually a generic Lightning address server on MutinyNet. And so you just put in your replit username and it'll do a whole Lightning address flow for you. So you can use that instead of having to run a node if you want to get on MutinyNet, if you want to be able to like get invoices and stuff from the web page. And so we'll go over how to do that in a little bit as well, how to use Lightning addresses. And then I think that is about it. Oh, and WebLN, and that's the final technology that we're going to be using is WebLN. And WebLN is a standard for how you use Lightning through the web. And so, for example, if you are using, if you've installed Albi is like a browser extension that will inject something called window.webln. It's going to inject WebLN code into your browser. And so I can go here and I can define and see if window.webln is defined, right? And it's like, yes, it is defined. It's currently not enabled on this web page or whatever, right? Is that when you open up an app in a Fedi-Mod or like a web page inside of Fedi's in-app browser, Fedi is injecting window.webln into that page, right? And so you can do all the stuff. So for example, like I'll show you this in a sec, but using on my browser, I can use it with Albi on mainnet. When you're using it on Fedi will do, I think we're the only ones who do it right now, is that we have an in-app browser that lets you use WebLN. And so we'll go over some examples of how that works, right? But yeah, I think that's about it. And this is WebLN guide that defines the spec for doing it. So if you want to like code using WebLN next week, feel free to, right? And this is like a really good one. You can do the WebLN reference and it tells you all the methods that you can call, right? So like WebLN.sendPayment, that will like Fedi will intercept that and it'll say, oh, hey, it wants me to pay this invoice. And so Fedi will ask you like, hey, do you want to pay this invoice? And you can click yes or no, right? But it's detecting whether or not WebLN is there, and Fedi is injecting WebLN. And we do it on MutinyNet. And so like you can do all this flow using Lightning addresses and using Matador to do something like make an application that uses AI and has like the user get prompted to pay every single time the AI does a query or something. Okay, so you can just do that as an example. So yeah, let's jump to it. So just go back for a sec. Cool. So let's go through. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to install Fedi. So if you can go to alpha.fedi.xyz, and it'll bring you to our faucet page where you can just like get some free some free MutinyNet sets, right? And then it's got the download links here. You can do download Fedi on iOS, download it on Android, download the APK. Or if you want to, you can just run it in the browser by going to app.fedi.xyz, right? And just the one thing for this is that if you're running it in the browser on your computer or just running in the browser or as the progressive web app, then you actually can't do the Fedi-Mods for it. And the reason why is because when you click on any of these Fedi-Mods, these are different web pages, right? And so it makes more sense. I'll show you in a second how to do it on mobile, but this is just what it looks like when you run it on there. So on the right-hand side of the screen, I'm sharing my phone screen. And so I was just in the App Store and I click join. And so here it looks like I have like I'm like running the same application on both, right? But you notice that the balances are different. And I'm actually running different accounts for each of these, right? So like I can look at settings over here. This is like my little test account, just a random string. And I click settings over here, and this is like Cody V4A. These are two different accounts, but the other thing to realize is that when you're using Fedi is that the eCache exists on the phone, right? The eCache is a bearer instrument. It's like when you deposit into the Federation, then you get issued eCache, and then you give the eCache back and you get Bitcoin, right? But the actual eCache is a bearer instrument. Like it lives on the phone, right? And so that's why you have to do your backups and stuff. But like you can't, it's hard to there's different ways to do it, to manage it, but it's hard to manage having like the eCache in multiple locations. So if you're just going to run it on, I recommend you just run Fedi on your phone for when you're developing with this stuff, and you just use it there, right? But I'm just going to do this so you can see a couple things we can do with Fedi before we continue on. One of them is you can do chat payments, right? And so Fedi has chat functionality embedded into it. You can run a chat server alongside the federation. So this Fedi Alpha Federation that both of my apps are connected to. They're both running on the Fedi Alpha Chat Federation, and so I can do stuff like, I can text each other. So test. You can see that I'm getting the responses there, and then I can do stuff like I can hit the wallet and I can request 3 sats, and then from here I can hit pay, and then it pays it, right? And so that's actually sending eCash over the chats, right? Which is super cool. And a couple other cool things we can do. One of them is because the eCash is a bearer instrument, you can do an offline payment. And so I'm not going to disconnect my phone from the internet just because I don't want the screen to stop sharing. But as an example, this is one of the things you can do with eCash as an offline payment. You can do like this. You can do request, receive Bitcoin offline. And so on my phone, I can now do send offline, and I'll do like 35 sats, right? And so here, right? So this switches and goes to an animated QR code. This QR code is the eCash, like the actual eCash. It's just saying this is what the eCash is, right? Because remember, it's a bearer instrument. And so even if my phone were offline, I would be able to say, okay, from the phone, this is the eCash. And then I go to a different application and I scan it. And now the receiver just scanned the eCash, and now the receiver has it. It goes to the mint, gets it reissued, goes there. I know I haven't covered too deep how eCash works and stuff or whatever. That's not necessarily the focus of this, but eCash is super cool, right? And so we actually just had a really productive eCash programming day with the guys from Cashew. And there's like really cool stuff. Like one of the things, for example, if you want to play around with it, is that I added Xcashew for doing authentication with Matador. If you wanted to try that as well, like using both Fedi-Mint, both Fedi-Mint, and Cashew, right? But yeah, that's pretty cool. So like a couple other differences between these, right? So now here, this is like the section where we get to the actual Fedi-Mods. So Fedi-Mods are just these are just links right now. And when you're on the browser, when you're on the computer in the browser for it, like this doesn't open the in-app browser because it's not like on the phone, right? And so if I hit get test sats, this actually goes to a different page, right? And so you can see that it just opened a new page, right? Versus if on Fedi, I click get test sats, you can see that it opened in Fedi's in-app browser. And when you open it in Fedi, in the in-app browser, then it injects that window.webln on MutinyNet. And so you can see the difference between these two is that the one on my phone, you notice that the button changed to generate invoice, and the one over here does not have that. The reason why is because this web page, you can think about it as like a very simple Fedi-Mod, right? Is that it is detecting whether or not window.webln has been defined, and it can work on MutinyNet. And because it can, I can just hit this one button, generate invoice, and this is doing window.webln dot, I think it's make invoice, right? And so it's making an invoice off here, and so then I can do accept, saying like, hey, give me an invoice for 10,000 sats. And so I passed it and I do it. And so it's like a lot faster, right, than doing this, right? So instead of having to do like actually go generate the invoice, copy the invoice over, paste it in here or whatever, I can just hit generate invoice. And then the web page talks through window.webln to Fedi. Fedi just has a little pop-up in the bottom. It opens up, right? Which is pretty cool. Okay. So let's go back. And so every federation that you join comes with a bunch of defaults when you join it. So this is the Fedi Alpha Federation. So you can click here and join that one. We're actually going to join a second different federation. This one is the MutinyNet O2 Federation. This is just like a development one that we set up so you guys can use it, right? And so I'm going to connect to it from my phone. The way I do that is I add, and you can see that there's the idea of Fedi is that there's multiple federations and you're like communicating across those. Is that looks like I'm already connected on this one. Yeah, I'm already connected. And so instead of logging out on that one, I'll do it over here. Okay. Top. We'll go to this one. Fedi.xyz. You can see here, this one doesn't have a chat server. This is just running like out of the box Fedi. Is that, oh, I'm already on here. Well, I'll disconnect and then, yeah, the federation. Oh, all right. Sorry, we haven't shipped that. That's okay. Well, yeah, at this point, I mean, let's just jump to doing the actual Fedi-Mods. Okay, so let me go over here and I'm going to do this. I'll do my first example one. So I've made a site called chatln-mutinynet.replit.app. And you can see here it's just like a blank page, right? But the thing that this does is it just works just like ChatGPT. But what it does is it asks you for a lightning payment every time that you do it, right? And this one is running on MutinyNet. And so I'm going to try this on my computer. And because this is not running in Fedi, I'm not going to be able to finish this payment because it's going to try to pay through Albi, and Albi is on mainnet, not MutinyNet, right? So let's try this. So test, right? And it says payment failed, right? Like, why is the payment failing? So that I can go to console. I can see there's probably a issue over here, right? So this one's coming from a different error. Is that 402 unauthorized, right? Is that oh, sorry, no, the 402 is payment required. Yeah, so it's getting this 402 error back, and then when it gets the 402 error back, then it tries to see, hey, is window.webln enabled? And if it is, then it passes the invoice to it. But because this is a MutinyNet invoice, my Albi can't recognize it, and it'll say like, oh, this is an invalid invoice because it's trying to pay with mainnet Bitcoin. But now let's add this Fedi mod into Fedi, and we can see that it's going to work when we do it this way, right? So the first thing we're going to do is notice that like this MutinyNet one doesn't come with anything out of the box. You have to add your own Fedi mods to it, and it's super simple to do. So I go settings, tap general 10 times in order to reveal the developer settings, right? You just tap the general word 10 times. You go into developer settings, and then this gives you the ability to do a bunch of stuff, right? So you can like simulate Guardian mode, you can change your currency, change your language. More important, one of these custom Fedi-Mods tools that we have, right? And so one of them is that you can have debug mode, and debug mode will inject dev tools so that you can inspect the console and all that kind of stuff from your phone, which is like super valuable. The other one is Noster, is that you can have it so Fedi will recognize anything that calls for a NIP7 signer, which is like a browser extension for Noster stuff. Fedi can handle all of those for signing messages, those kinds of things. And so currently it's just in dev mode for it. And so, but if you're going to build something with Noster next week, you can use Fedi for that as well. Next thing we can do is we can add a custom Fedi mod. And so the only thing you have to do here is you have to put the URL in. And so it'll autofill the HTTPS. And so I just have to do chatln-mutinynet.replit.app. And I wait a second and it just hit a get against there. This is just like, just instead of you having to fill all this stuff out, it'll just do a get against there and then try to get the favicon and the title off there. And so I can click save. And now when I go back to my home screen, you can see that there is a custom Fedi mod added, right? And so this is just like on my phone, it works in development, and we can do it that way, right? So I'm gonna hit here, I'm gonna do LNGPT. And you can see that I was already doing stuff on here. Let's delete this real fast, right? And so here, I can just do something like, why is Bitcoin great? Send, and then see, you get this payment request to come up, right? And so this is exactly what was happening over here. But because I'm running Fedi on a MutinyNet federation right now, when I get the MutinyNet Lightning invoice from LNGPT, then that just tells me, oh, hey, like I know how to pay this thing. And so Fedi recognizes that, and then it can do the pop-up. And I'll go through the code of how that works first in a little bit. But here, I just hit accept, and then it does a Lightning payment where I take the eCash, lock it to a contract, have it finish the Lightning payment via Lightning Gateway. Oh, sorry, it's glitching a little bit, but I think that's the screen share. That's okay. I'll just stop. Just doing that with the screen share. That's okay. Yeah, so then you can just use this like ChatGPT, but you pay with Lightning payments over MutinyNet, which is cool. And then you notice here, there's this dev tool icon thing that I can hit that and then see how it opens up the console on my phone, right? So that's just like a super, super, super useful thing when you're developing. So yeah, definitely do that. So let's just do another example of this is I'm going to go in, I'm going to add another custom Fedi-Mod in here. And this one is going to be a demo site that I did for Matador. So Matador is a reverse proxy that I set up, and we're going to go through how that works in a little bit. But Matador-demo-mutiny Fedi.repl.co. And it waits a sec, and then see how it just while you're typing, it'll like try to hit again against there and see if it gets anything back to get the favcon in the title. So I can click save. And I go back right here, and there we go. So now I have my two custom Fedi-Mods on there, right? And then I can hit Matador demo page, and I get this demo page, right? And so this is just a page that I made. Like Matador itself is just a reverse proxy. And so, and again, like I'm running this on MutinyNet, and you guys can add as many APIs to it as you want. Just let me know and I'll add them in. And it already has it set up for all sorts of different AI services. So you can hit against it like OpenAI, Cohere. I've got like a whole list of them somewhere. But yeah, but so here I can go like test, right? And so this is going to do a request against Matador. Matador will say, hey, pay this Lightning invoice. And if you pay the Lightning invoice, I'll finish the payment. Right? I'll finish the request for you and give you the result. And so here I can hit generate chat completion. And then it's kind of fast, right? But notice that you got this response over there. We'll see it in a sec, right? But it got a response of a 402 error. And in the 402 error, there was an invoice. And so the page that I'm on says like, if window.webln is defined, then call send payment and pass it the invoice. And so that's what just opened this on Fedi, is that Fedi said, okay, I just got an invoice for 1 Satoshi. I'm going to accept and pay it. So it's doing the Lightning payment right now. There you go. Cool. And so just the flow for that is that when I first did the call, right? So this is doing a post request against the Matador endpoint for OpenAI. It returns back this authentication header, which is an L402, which has like, this is the authentication token and the invoice you have to pay. Then I paid the invoice. And when I paid the invoice, I get the preimage, and I can use the preimage to complete the authentication token in order to finish the request. And then Matador finishes the request for me. And then it gives me the result. And you can see the result is just this JSON blob, right? And so it works with like all the different endpoints. I just made a couple example ones here, right? So like a Bitcoin falling out of the sky. This is going to hit against their image generation endpoint. And so I'm going to hit generate image. And then notice I got the invoice back. So I hit accept. Finishes the Lightning payment. The image generation one is a little slower, but you can see it finished it completed the L402 token by adding the pre-image to it. And then I get the response, and then it shows me the image, right? And so like, this is like not very good front end work on my part, but like the whole point of Matador is it's just a wrapper on the APIs. It's not about the front end. It's about using it in your applications, right? And so This was just like a couple quick examples for it. Now I'm going to jump into Replit and I'm going to show you if you wanted to make like a custom one yourself. I'm just going to have it be super simple. You click a button, it gets an invoice and pass that to WebLN. And then if you pay the invoice, then it shows the pre-image, right? I'm just going to show you super fast how to do that using the tools that using the tools I put together for you guys on MutinyNet. And if you guys have any requests or anything that you want me to do for helping you guys out or adding any more API endpoints or anything like that, like please let me know. It's super simple, right? So I'm going to pause real fast, just open up a new code environment, and then we're going to get started. Okay, hey, so this is just how to make a super simple Fedi-Mod. And so I went to Replit, I hit create, I made a HTML, CSS, JavaScript template, and it's just modify a couple little things here. And all I'm going to do is just use WebLN in order to interact with Fedi so we can see how this works, right? So if you want to do any of the WebLN functions, you can just go look at the webln.guide. And this has references for all of the WebLN functions, which is cool. And Fedi supports LN URLs, it supports like all the WebLN functions stuff. And it's also got window.master. And if you toggle that on in the developer tool settings, and yeah, so you can do all of that sort of cool stuff. So here's just like super simple code of how you can request an invoice and pay an invoice through Fedi, right? So let's go here. I'm going to do get invoice with WebLN. And so when I do get invoice with WebLN, that's just this button here. And it says get invoice is like, hey, if WebLN's not undefined, you always have to check for this, right? Because somebody might come to your site not through Fedi, that might come through a different form. Turn it on and make an invoice for 1 Satoshi. Then fill it into the invoice field. So when I hit accept, it should populate this invoice field with that invoice, right? So I can click accept. Cool. And so now I have a Lightning invoice. And so I can try to pay that invoice, but I'm going to run into an issue, which is that the way Fedi works is with the eCash, right? And so because it's using eCash, you basically make a contract for a Lightning gateway to pay a Lightning invoice. And the Lightning gateway can't, if you are trying to pay yourself over a Lightning invoice, that's not going to work, right? And so I can go here and try pay invoice with WebLN, except see there already exists an operation for that because I'm like posting this contract to the gateway. So it's getting confused. But so I need a different way that I can get invoices, right? So one of the things I could do is I can just go to my Fedi app over here. So app.fedi.xyz, make a different Lightning invoice and send it to myself to pay. So request, let's do 2, that's 2 sats. Right. Copy. Myself. Pay. I'm actually going to have to remove because that's my super simple version of this app. I didn't do parsing, and so I just have to get rid of this Lightning URI. Right. So now I can go here and I can do pay invoice with WebLN. Right. And so see now Fedi intercepts that and says like, hey, do you want me to pay this thing? Okay, so accept. And it does a Lightning payment. Right. Sweet. And so then I just had a little alert inside that said, hey, you did the Lightning payment, right? Which is cool. And that says I received it over here. Yeah, so that was just this code over here. So just this one, just feel free to copy paste this or whatever. This is like world's simplest code in order to get Fedi to make invoices and pay invoices, right? So now I'm going to stop sharing my phone screen and I'm going to go just through some normal like developer stuff of just tooling around MutinyNet that I've built up so that you guys can make applications a lot easier, okay? So let me cancel this. Just close out of there. Close out of there. this bigger. Then let's out. And let's go over here. So I don't need WebView anymore. And I'm just going to use curl and shell. So shell, clear. Oops. There. Cool. Okay, so the first thing I did was I made MutinyNet lightning addresses for everybody. And the way that you do lightning addresses is a little bit counterintuitive, but it's very easy to do. And it's a way that you can just get invoices from on like the server side or anything like that, just by doing some simple GET requests, right? So let's just do that right now. So the way to do that is the website where I set everything up for you guys is a mutinynet.app, right? And the way it's going to work is you put your Replit username at mutinynet.app in order to do the payment, in order to do the lightning address. And the lightning address flow is defined like this. Username at domain.com. You parse that, and then you do domain /.wellknown/lnurlp/username. And then you hit that, and that will give you the lnurl pay data JSON object. And the valuable thing in there is that it's got this callback. The callback URL is going to be the thing that you actually hit with an amount, and it'll give you an invoice back, right? So let's just show that real fast. So my username on Replit is Cody. And so the way that I built MutinyNet.apps lightning addresses is that it just auto generates off of your Replit username. So just use the exact one you use for Replit, or you can just use Cody or whatever, right? So I'm going to do curl https://mutinynet.app/.wellknown/Cody. And that gives me a JSON object back, right? I can look in here, it says like status, here, let me get a little bit bigger too. As it says status okay, tag pay request, comment allowed, callback is here. So I'm going to copy this callback, and off the callback, I do that and I add a query parameter that says amount equals some amount in millisatoshis, right? So 1,000 millisatoshis, right? And see, it just gave me this lightning invoice. And so I can take this lightning invoice, and I could even go back to I could even send this to myself or Fedi, but I'm going to go to the Fedi app. I'll do send. I do not have any coins on this one, but I'm over here. That's fine. There you go. So I send one Satoshi. There you go. Sweet. Right. And then what's nice, I also did this. I like that Albi does this, and I did this too, is that you can go and hit against the verify URL that's also returned when you get the invoice. And this one will, you can just poll against that in order to see whether the invoice has been paid, right? And so see here, it says like status okay, settled true. It gives you the pre-image and tells you that one. But if I were to do this, so I'm going to make a new invoice for amount of 1,000. And again, this is just like, this will work for any of you guys. You can do as much as you want. It's just an easy way to get MutinyNet lightning invoices without having to add anything else to your app or like run nodes or anything, right? You say there, and now I have a new invoice. And if I go hit against this curl there, right? So settled false, the pre-image is not included there, right? And it says what that is. But then if I go and I pay this thing, and there. There you go. Sweet. And I don't know if this is supported on the web version yet, but it might be. So I can just do Cody add app. Yeah, no. So on the app, it'll do it. So I don't have to share this again, but you can just send directly to a lightning address if you want that way, right? But yeah, so that's cool. So the other thing that I set up for you guys besides the mutinynet.app is Matador. And that's going to be like the next little segment of this. And it's just something that I'm really excited to see what you guys end up building. And I wanted to give you guys a bunch of AI tools for doing it, right? And so if we go here and just do, oh, oops, sorry. I just clear out. Okay, so now on to Matador. And so Matador is another service that I set up for you guys. So this is running on MutinyNet. And so you pay in MutinyNet coins in order to use my API key for any of these AI services that you want. Like, I'm just going to keep this live. You guys can use as much as you want, right? So the way Matador works is the same way that you would hit any service, any of these APIs with an authentication key or like a API key or anything. You just hit Matador without the API key with exactly the request that you want to do. Matador will give you back a invoice. You pay the invoice, prove that you paid the invoice through the L402 protocol, then it'll complete the request for you. So this is a really cool way of adding AI services in exchange for Bitcoin to whatever the apps are that you're building, right? So let's go see how this works real fast, right? So here I've just got a shell. I'm just going to be curling against this, right? So the site where I've set this up is curl is a https://matador mutiny.cody.repl.co, right? And so I can just hit against that and I get the website back, right? But so the way that I'm going to hit against these things is that I can go to something like any of these services. So I go to Matador and I'm just going to use like Stability, for example. So Stability AI is, they've got like all sorts of really cool models. I just click this one where it's like you can hit against them like this. And so you just curl against them that way. And so let me go do this real fast. So I'm just going to bring this over. And in my notes, I actually just copy this over, is here, the way that you're supposed to do this is you give them an output file of where to hit the PNG bytes to once it's created them. It says like, hey, you need to have a stability API key, but I'm going to try it just without a stability API key. And the root is this one, is HTTPS stability, whatever. And then you hit V1 generation, stable diffusion, Excel, all that kind of stuff, right? So this is the curl that I'm going to hit against, right? I'm just going to try to hit against this, but I'm not going to include a authorization key, right? And so here it says like authorization is bare stability AI key. I'm just going to try to hitting it without the API key, right? So let's go here, copy this whole thing over. I go 401, right, is like unauthorized. I'm not allowed to use this thing, right? But so now the entire process of doing this with Matador instead of doing this, and so you can use my API key by paying in MutinyNet coins for it, is that I just go to the beginning. I'm going to want to do -v because I want to see what the response looks like. So verbose, so I can see the headers. And I'm going to change this to just say my Matador root / stability. Matador-cody.repl.co / stability, right? And there's instructions on how to do this on the Matador webpage where it says like, hey, for stability, just change this root to your Matador URL / stability. And then just keep the rest of the API requests exactly the same. And so here, I can go, and if I go back here, sorry, oops, sorry about that. This one, now if I try this again, notice that here, instead of a 401 error, I get a 402 payment required error, right? And what that says is I'm going to use this L402 protocol. So that's going to give me a authentication token. This is a one-time use token and a invoice. And the invoice I can use for, I can pay the invoice, get the pre-image, attach to the token to finish it off. This is called the L402 protocol. And if you want to see more about how it works, you can do Lightning Network Blitz L402. It is they have some posts about it, like Lightning Labs has it. You can go to that L402 protocol, and in Lightning Labs they've got like the whole flow for it and stuff, right? But I'll just show you how it works right now. So here, I'm just going to take this invoice. I'm just going to pay it from the MutinyNet faucet. So this one, strike me now. There you go. That's the pre-image, which is the proof that I paid it. And so now the only difference is that I'm going to hit Matador again. But this time, I'm going to add in an extra header. And that header, sorry, I need to actually, I'll do that one more time because I can't clear because I need to get the token. So let me just pay this real fast. Faucet, yeah. Oh, oops, start over. Strike me now. There. That, so the only difference between what I just did and the request there and this request is that I'm going to add an authorization header to this, right? And the authorization header is going to be my L402. So that's authorization L402. This, close that off. And so that's the preimage. So it's L402 space the token, because that's the commitment to the original request, colon the preimage, right? So here, I should be able to hit enter, and then it should do the whole generation for me. See, it's kind of waiting. There we go, cool. And so it says I got a 200 okay. That means that the request went through. And now I have this output.png, right? And so I can actually see it in Replit, but I don't know, let's download it so we can see what it looks like. Or I can just do the whole same thing from my computer. Right, so here, just go up here, do the payment one more time. Right, so I hit against there, gives me back the L402, and I go up. I add a header, authorization. That's it. Oh, oops, sorry, that was the token. So token goes there. I do full colon, and you get the pre-image for paying the invoice. Go. That. And let's make it a little bit more big again, right? So you see the only difference between the first one and the second one is that I'm just hitting it again, but just passing in this additional authorization header. And that authorization header is, all right, that actually has to say L402. So it goes authorization, full colon space. So the header value is L402 space. The L402 is, this is the token that came back in the original call. So that's the commitment to the original request that I did. And full colon the invoice. So now I should be able to click enter. And this should generate a picture. There we go. So that is 200. So that means I got it. So here, less, and I have a output.png, right? So let's just move that in the documents. So you can go look at it. Yep, moved it. So now I can go to documents. And then there should be like an output.png somewhere in here. There you go. Bitcoin on a lighthouse. right? And so this works for absolutely anything that you want to use, right? So you can use like all the OpenAI endpoints, you can use Stability, you can use Claude, you can use Perplexity, which is my favorite, and like I find the most useful. But yeah, so like, you know, if I wanted to do the same thing hitting against OpenAI, I would do curl-v https://matador mutiny code.raffle.co/openai/v1/models. Right. And so see, this gives me the invoice back. So I can go here, pay it. Do this one. I'm just going to add the header. The header, move this up so you can see better. Each authorization, go to. Just got to go back and have the token over. These are just one-time use tokens. So here. Did I misspell it? There we go. Okay. I don't know why that wasn't working at first. All right, but see, it gave me the response, gives me all the models. Okay, so I'll make sure that's fixed. But for yeah, just you guys feel free to use this as much as you want. If you want any help with any of your projects or whatever, like I'm always around to do that. And I really hope to see just some like cool stuff that you guys can make. And yeah, that's it. Thanks.